So like I said before, the size of the head is a bit too pinched near the top. It should generally be, instead of a perfect square, the size of the head from the top of the skull to the chin should be a movement down. It's like a cone. It should just be a gradual shrinking, and the chin should be generally thinner, especially for beauty's sake. You always want to reinforce the triangle even in the skeletal structure of the face. So I'm just trying to align the neck with the jawline. Remember that the neck, literally, if you put your fingers with me now, under your ear and move it down along the side of your neck, it does like a V shape down into your collarbone, and it connects straight into your ears, so you know where your jaw ends, which is also right beside your ear or right beneath your ear. And if you move your fingers down, that's all connected. That's all a very, very similar place. A very it's a very it's like a brotherhood. Okay, the jawline, which is this, the ear, and the neck. These are all connected. They're all very, very close vicinity. This brotherhood here, and it'll help you determine where the neck starts, especially with a slender face, a long neck. That's another sign of beauty, a long neck. Make sure that the necks you draw aren't too long or too short, and make sure that they start from the jawline. As for the smile, like I said before, there was a beautiful brushwork, by the way. You either should compress the mouth a little bit. Compress it, I meant by, like, you know, the lips being stacked like this. So, I mean the fat stacking against the lips when they push out into the smile. So you'll get this, this line here, which could let us know that the smile is happening, and then paint away what look if I just raped. It's a bit low res, so please forgive me. And the core shadow of the face with the Rembrandt lighting cannot be interrupted, so it needs to stay dark in the lower half of the face. And then the chin and everything, as imagine it as the basic shape, which is the sphere, and then we introduce the core shadow. So imagine it without all the features, just the sphere. The core shadow would be half the face. And then as you add features and as you sculpt, that core shadow is interrupted. So you have to know where it's interrupted at which spot. So near the bottom lip, which points up into the light, and then the corners of the lips like I showed you. It's really just a very tedious process, making sure you're not adding too much dark, making sure that you add the dark only in the real actual cavity of the lip corner. Everything else is just cheek and skin, and so it can be very easy to go too dark too soon and in the wrong spot. And this is pretty much the expression you had, just the mouth was a little large. The nose might have been a little small, but as for the eyes, I recommend bringing them in a little bit closer. Okay. So let me decrease the density. And so when a smile happens, a lot happens to the face. The nostrils open up, the eyes squint, and this is one option that you can take into changing your image. The other option is to add the smile, make the smile actually that big. So add a bigger cheek light that captures the light. Let me show you. So what would happen is the cheeks would catch more light. There would be some sort of dimple or something happening. And then the mouth itself will expand. And then we'll have because the cheeks are getting higher, what happens to the eyes is they squint. The eyebrows also get raised a little. And the nostrils move with the smile. And like before, you were afraid of having the lines. You're afraid it might make it look old. You don't have to have lines. You can just sculpt the cheek out where the smile is happening. And that could also work to show that the cheeks are part of the smile. Okay, is it lagging out for people? Like really badly? Or is it good? No? Can you still hear, John Dowell? Okay, the forehead needs some of the light, as well as the eyebrows. Well, the recording will be there if you want to watch it. I'm blue today, guys. Okay, so it's either that or... Here, let me add a little bit more form to the cheeks. So she looks like she's smiling. Remember, guys, here, let me give you a tiny little lesson. I repeat this a lot. Everybody pay attention. When you want to make a character have an expression, some of you are really afraid of it looking too old. And you are afraid because you haven't acquainted yourselves yet with what happens when lines are added to a face. So let's look at this image here. Okay, this is the older half of this girl, alright? And this is the younger half. This is something I picked up off a magazine. What we see is the wrinkles are the skin has lost its elasticity. So what happens is it can no longer fight against gravity. It can't stay perky all the time, and so it sags, and there's no controlling it from sagging. It'll just sag because that part of the skin has no collagen in it to keep it connected, whatever it is scientifically. It just doesn't work anymore the way it used to. So the skin falls downward, downward, downward. Everything is pointing down. This is Rembrandt lighting right now that we're seeing right now on this image. A little bit higher than Rembrandt lighting, but it's okay. Or a bit lower, actually. This can be translated almost as a line in your art. However, do you see the other side of her cheek? It still has this very similar womanly contour. It still has that, but it's a very delicate, large brush stroke. It's not a thin brush stroke, almost like a line. Be careful of lines when you're drawing. This is like both a lesson about when you use lines and when you shouldn't use, when you use lines and when you should use lines. You should use lines if you want to make something look old. That's how you do it. If you, oh, is it really bad? Is it lagging a lot? Damn it. Okay, just gonna wait. So I'm not whistling, or what's happening? Maybe I should close some shit. Goodbye. Goodbye Hamachi. Goodbye Clary. Goodbye Skype? No, not yet. Okay. So when you use, basically what I'm trying to say is if you want to make someone look old, use a thinner brush stroke. If you don't want them to look old, use a larger brush stroke to contour the cheeks. Cheeks are a very sensitive area when you want to add form because it can make the character look old, especially with a smile. An older person, when they smile, it is an actual line because the skin is folding on itself. It actually has one part of the skin fold on itself if an old person smiles. So it can literally be a shadow translated as a line in your brush strokes. It can be a very thin brush stroke. But if it's a young person, there aren't any wrinkles, it's very like 20s, 30s, then you will have there won't be that much folding of the skin, therefore the wrinkles won't be there, therefore you won't need a thin brush stroke. You'll need a large brush stroke. So don't be afraid of using these large brush strokes to contour the cheeks. So before the head was a little pinched, the eyes I think started it all. The eyes made the nose, actually the lips a bit wide, and then the lips being wide made the chin a bit wide. And even though the head might have started off as at a good size, the lips expanded the chin width, and it didn't let it be pinched to accentuate the beauty and remain in the triangle. So the fact that the lips were too large basically is the culprit, and then after you shrink it. Well, let me take away the edits for the smiling face. Right after liquefy. Okay, so before, after, just after liquefy. The other stuff you saw, just lightening the cheeks, and squinting the eyes, flaring out the nose. That would work better. But this is pretty much the same expression you had before, maybe a little less of a smile, but the lips were too wide. You can create the same kind of smile and expression by making sure that you don't expand too far, because there's a limit for the lips. And after that limit is reached, what happens is you get folding of the skin near the outer corners. When someone smiles, they get like little folds on either corner of the face, just like that. And also, stretched skin gets shinier, so the bottoms of the lips here will be a little bit shiny. If you guys haven't noticed, you can just stretch your skin and you'll see that it has a flatter surface area, and so it reflects more, the light isn't interrupted as it travels over the skin, so it has a shinier surface. The lips are also stretched rectangular instead of maintaining their circular shape, so that also creates the feeling of a stretched smile in the image. And just applying like the basic light spots. You have all the dark spots, it's very well done, you have a good grasp over that. Just light spots maybe might help the cheeks get a bit more form. Even if it's a gentle smile, the cheeks will still have that contour going on. And make sure not to interrupt the core shadow. It's really important because it maintains the basic shape of the skeleton, of the skull, of the head. If that's interrupted, the face looks very, very flat. Looks like it has a very flat, like there is no curvature to the side of the face. I'm just trying to get back the basic shading of the head underneath this kind of lighting. Just treating it like a very, very basic subject, or a very, very basic shape, and then working from there. A little bit of light on the chin. Sorry if I'm painting away some of your texture. Yeah, it's really beautiful, isn't it, the way he paints eyes? Okay. And that's pretty much it. It's just remembering the basic shapes and what they do. How one feature, if it's wrong, all of a sudden another feature is wrong as well. Because one affects the other, because they're all tied together in the big image of proportion. They're all stuck together. If the lips are too wide, something's wrong with the nose or the eyes, or there's something odd about the way you're seeing the symmetry, horizontally or vertically. So you could apply these corrections anytime. This one is Carlo's. Okay, Carlo, so you have something of a landscape. It's not really a landscape, but it is like a space in which we have two characters. There's a really awesome artist on YouTube. His name is Alfonso Dunn. He really talks about like how to create depth, and he does it so well. I'm not even going to bother trying to teach it as well as he does. So please try to find it on YouTube, Alfonso Dunn. He teaches depth very, very well. One of the things that he teaches, or one of the rules of creating depth in a landscape image type drawing thing, is value. What happens when objects are in the distance. So when objects are in the distance, they are not as close up. For many reasons, they are lighter. And this is just a rule. One of the reasons could be atmospheric fade. It could be focus. When objects are out of focus, there is less contrast. When objects are in focus, means they're close up. We can see them in focus. There's no blur, and the contrast is heightened. When an object is in the distance, there's a higher blur. Therefore, less edges. Therefore, less contrast. So when you basically, the main issue with this image here is that you are not choosing which character is in the foreground and which character is in the background value-wise. So you have to choose them. Like you've already chosen this guy's in the foreground, looking at this guy. But what you haven't chosen is on the value scale, which one is in the front, which one is in the back. The focus scale, you've chosen it. The color perspective, or the perspective of color. Wait, let me rephrase that. When it comes to color, you've chosen the focus because you've added reds to him. When it comes to detail, you've chosen him as the focus. However, with scale, color scale, or value, grayscale, whatever, you haven't decided yet which one is it. Even though all the focal direction is pointing to him, he still is almost the same value as the big guy in the background. It's not much of a change, if you can look at it like that. Or let me try it both ways. Okay, so do you see how similar they are in value? What you need to do is make this guy darker, if you want him to be the focal point, of course. He needs to have a higher contrast on him, because after you do that, he will be the one in the foreground. It doesn't even have to be that much. It will blend him in with the foreground that is also just a tad darker. And now we have a character in the background, character in the foreground, or the other way around. Another issue is the kind of canvas that you've chosen. This canvas that you've chosen is a bit wide, and you have these two really almost the same size characters. So another thing comes up, which is, well, the first thing before I forget, is stacking and size or scale. Okay, so let me talk about stacking. Stacking is when you have a character, or like let's say you have a canvas and you have one boulder in front of another boulder in front of another boulder. Part of that other boulder isn't visible because this boulder is hiding it, or this boulder is hiding it. This creates depth. This creates a line of vision. If you have another boulder and another boulder, all of a sudden we have a line of vision, and then we can have a gate, and then this is like the gate of truth or something. Okay, so this is another way to create depth. Something that is, depth is basically the illusion of you can step into the painting. That's what depth is. Another, am I lagging at all, guys? Is it still bad? No? Yeah, it's bad? No, it's perfect. Okay, good. Alright, another one is size and scale. So, as you can see, I already involved it into this example. The size also shrinks, representing the fact that there are levels in the distance that this object is taking, and there is a great distance between me and this object. If me is right here looking at this object in the distance, so it's getting smaller because there's a great space in between us, and it's expanding past, and if it gets small enough it'll disappear because the land is that big. So what you need to do, Carlo, at this stage is you need to shrink your canvas, bring this fella in a bit closer. Cancel. No. Damn it. Cancel. Cancel. Bring this little dude here and shrink him. Once you do that, you will see that the depth is elevated. Photoshop, why you do this? I don't need this. Okay, let me use this brush. Okay, and then we shrink the canvas so the focus is accentuated, and then we enlarge the guy in the foreground, and finally, God, I'm so annoying, how do you guys listen to me? We stack, we cause some of the objects attached to the foreground stack on top of this object. Even maybe we can just make it stack like this, like that. Okay, or another way, however you want it, like maybe part of the wing, or maybe his sword is crossing against his sword, so what you can do is make his sword go like that, and they're already crossing the swords, or something, I don't know, out of rocket launcher attachment. Sorry, it's like a dumb joke I keep doing. But in any case, this is basically what I'm talking about. Also, I like the texture. You have a good eye for texture, but be careful of over-texturing. Texture doesn't paint for you. Using textures does not paint for you. It's a canvas setter. These are the first couple of really textured brushes I have, and I leave them at the top because you only really need them at the beginning to set up your canvas. You don't need an intense texture brush later on because first of all, you're going to need a really set brush you're going to use for the entire image. A really good brush you can depend on that'll help you render all kinds of material. And when you really need it, you can use stamp brushes to get you to finish some sort of detail off quickly. But altogether, the detail caused by texture is really obsolete. It's not going to help you render any better than what you're capable of in your mind as an artist. Do you get it? So, yeah. That's pretty much it. You need a bit more work on the value, so the object in the foreground needs to be darker, and then the object in the background needs to be a bit more faded. So let's fade him out for a second. Okay. And then if you want to add some detail on him, you can add some minor contrast on the horse or the part of the object that is closer. And so you can add some contrasty stuff just on the part that is coming the closest to create depth. So he's still in the background and this guy is coming closer. And if an object is closer, it gets more focus and gets more contrast. But generally, make sure that he never ever at any point in his life reaches the same value scale as the guy in the foreground, because it's physically impossible. It's against the laws of physics. And if it's against the laws of physics, then you shouldn't be doing it for your image. Okay? And then finally, if you want to add some more detail and more intrigue, you might not be finished, so you're probably going to do this anyway. but I don't know, do I have any decent brushes for this kind of thing? I need to get rid of these. This is a stamp brush, by the way. Just stamp that shit to create some like twigs and such. Come on. Okay, something like that. And then of course add some more detail. Make sure the detail level isn't the same as, you already know this, the 100% and the 90, 80, 70. So make sure everything is less in detail and that the halo of detail is only around the main character here. And then of course increase the contrast on the main character. And so I'm just using my dodge tool here just to increase some of the contrast. I recommend trying like explain to us where the red is coming from. If it's like maybe an inner glow or something, or some sort of power, make it a part of his armor so it seems like there is some sort of sense behind his design, or else we won't be able to establish like a connection with that design. So maybe like some sort of energy juice going through his spine or something that connects all that red glow to everything else that is part of the design of his body or whatever. I'm really not sure. I don't work with this kind of subject too much. Okay? And that way it'll explain to us what's happening here with his armor. And be careful of large patches of light. They might look good, but be careful of what they do when you zoom out. You can see how large they are and how they take over the scale of the object. So he is in the foreground, so what will happen is he will still be, don't break his scale, don't break the core shadows ever, because you depend on them to, depend on these basic subjects to work as a plate through which you deliver your story. And if you break these rules, what happens is the realism suffers and then your story suffers, which is, story is your drawing. Okay. Maybe like have like some sort of edge. So it looks like he's standing on something. And then at this stage, it's really very, very possible that you just change the canvas altogether. Change it into something like this, because now you have space for the standing characters. Before it was a bit challenged because you had these standing characters and then you had all this horizontal space you had to fill. And that wasn't going to help. I don't know if Carlo's here. Is he here with us today? You weren't using all of the tools that you could use to make an object, to make a painting look like it has depth. Depth can be created in many ways. There's a video online by Alfonso Dunn on how to make depth, and he teaches it very well. I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to teach it as good as he does, so please find it on YouTube. His name is Alfonso Dunn. Okay, Carlo? Is he still here? Is Carlo still here? Did he leave? Yeah, he's here. So basically what I did, I shrunk the canvas. You had too much going on. You had one small object, one small object. They're both the same size. What you need to do is make them not the same size. So you need to make one object. First of all, you need to make the canvas a little more long because they're all standing characters. Then you need to make one object big, one object small. Then you make one object dark, one object light. This is also another depth, so this is called scale, grayscale. And then there's scale for sizes, and then there's stacking. So I put his sword in front of this guy's wing, so it looks like he's in front of this guy is in the background. Okay? And then I darkened the foreground, added some details with a stamp brush, and then I heightened the contrast here, and I placed some detail on the spine of the character to make it seem like the red, because I'm trying to explain this red glow so it doesn't look incoherent. So I placed that on the spine so that it looks like the design is unified. And it looks like he's actually has some sort of power juice that's running through his armor that's fueling his armor, instead of just placing random reds because they look good. Overlapping, exactly, but not overlapping just one object in front of another object. Looks like overlapping, but they're both on the same scale, and it kind of looks like a coconut bra. But if you want to make it look like one cube is in front of another cube, you not only stack these two cubes, but you shrink the size. Whoops. You shrink the size. You fade this one out. Oh, fuck it. You fade this out. You add more detail on this one. So this one has more detail. This one has less detail. And that's how you make it already looks like this one is behind this one. Because you can draw the dumbest thing and it can look like it has depth, because these are the rules, and this is how these rules work, and this is how our eyes work. Okay? So you had a bit of trouble because both characters were the same size. Both of them were the same scale. Both of them not really equal detail level because you had the detail down. You had the colors pointing to this character, which didn't have scale, and you didn't have grayscale, and you didn't have size scale to make this guy the focal point and this guy the secondary threat. But you'll see in the recording why I made this part of the horse darker and all of that. Maybe add a little bit of detail on the horse just to show that he's partially visible. Yes, and what else? Who else did I mess around with? I'm not sure if I have time. Do I? I'll look at this one. One sec. Okay, as for this is a character design. One rule: never paint character design on a white background. It's simply not a good thing. Because it's going to ruin all of your scaling, all of the scales that you worked so hard to put together and make the character look three-dimensional. The white background will just shit on your party. It will take a big fat dump on your party. I mean white background. Yeah, not gray background. Gray background is good. So look at what was wrong with your colors, just because the white was forcing your values upward. Whoops. Because the white, what the white does is it confuses you. It makes everything that you paint too dark, and so you push everything up. Even though technically that object and that kind of texture or whatever the situation is shouldn't be that dark at all. So what we need to do is make the background gray. Even this gray is a bit light. This is a bit too light for me. I usually paint at a much darker gray, because it allows my values to be in a mid-tone. Mid-tone is where form is, guys. Form isn't with black and white. Form is with the ranges of gray that you use. You can paint anything from this gray to this gray. You can paint anything. You don't have to have, you don't have to have this full-on black and this full-on white. You can paint from here to here just fine. Even that is a bit too much of a jump, from here to here. It's all about how you distribute your edges and your form. That's where it's all happening. So that being said, let's jump into some proportions. The head was a bit too short. Is a bit too short. I'm not sure what she's looking at or what the expression is. Is she in shock? Is she yelling? She seems like she's protesting against Obamacare. So, I'm sorry, that was a dumb joke. It's just, I'm not sure what it seems like she's in a protest, or she's like saying, kill him! Or like it's some sort of mass execution. So I need to know like what it is that's happening, so maybe I can guide you around the, She's looking at something in the sky. Okay, so if she's looking at something in the sky, let me redo this. There needs to be some shock, but halfway there. If the thing is already like flying at her and it's about to eat her and it already ate her baby, then maybe she can be this shocked that her teeth show. But as for just seeing something in the air, or maybe some sort of animal coming towards her, it's a hunt, whatever the story is, make sure that you are drawing the expression respectively. So yes, she's looking up at the object that is hurling at her, or is not. Keep the mouth. The teeth don't have to be visible in this situation. She can just be looking up. It doesn't have to be that kind. And if her mouth is open, like if I open my mouth and look up, I can feel the top lip on all my teeth on the top. So so because when I do that gesture, I feel that's what happens to my anatomy. It's a good guide for me to know how much of the teeth are actually showing. So the bottom teeth, pretty much, if I do that expression, are what show. And now she could be looking like she's looking up at the object. And is sort of in shock, but not really that much in shock. Okay. Okay. And then her bottom teeth could be showing. And then of course, depending on where the light source is, all of that same mumbo jumbo about core shadow. So where is the shadow of the face? Half the face should be in shadow depending on where the light source is. It looks like it's coming from the top. You've got a bit work on the cheekbones to give the face more structure. Then you've got the shoulders. So what you need to do is get a good reference on collarbones, all that stuff, because it seems to be just a big mass here. You don't have any real information representing any anatomy or form. So you need some of that. And then finally, now that you said it, get the torso to be the costume, the armor is a bit bulky, but waist and the general form of her body should still be slender, so that you don't have super bulky. And this thing here should be a bit more linear, so it shows that it's like a piece of cloth or leaf that is protecting her. As for the colors, you have a light source, a secondary light source coming from the back, but then you have it over here. The secondary light source, what you need to do is make that secondary light source come only from the back. So let me get color dodge. It's not even gonna work. No. Color. Yeah. So place that light only on the parts of the body that are facing the light source in the background directly. And then you're going to have the clash. There's a video I've also uploaded on the clash that happens in between light sources. And then you've got the main light source casting the main shadows. So got some light on the forehead, light on the chin, on the stomach, And then remember, any object standing in front of a cast light is going to cast a shadow. So some shadows will be cast because of the secondary light source. Today's class was a bit long and tiring. To make the light source consistent, make sure that you are casting that secondary light source on all of the units that can catch it. Bye, Samene. Thank you for coming. Okay. And some here. Some here. Depending on the grooves of the armor. And now do you see how she's part of the universe that is casting both the primary light source and the secondary light source? And how the background, the gray background now, is allowing these light sources to shine. If it was white, we wouldn't even know what the heck is going on. Because I'm not sure if it's going to go up on YouTube because today was a real mess with the live stream shutting down. I might put some of the stuff that didn't get lagged out on YouTube. I'm not sure. But it is going to be available on the history of Livestream. Livestream has a history setting. I mean a history archive. Just below, right there below the stream window. So I'm almost done anyway. It's not going to be much longer. Yeah, it did. Okay, so I'm just going to find the most intense areas where the light source is really shining and use the dodge tool on those areas. Just to reinforce it, show where the intensity is. So when you want to make something look shocked, and you don't want it to look like she's being possessed or protesting Obamacare, make sure you're not showing the eyes completely. Make sure you are not doing this. Make sure you do some of the eyes hidden because it'll look too shocked and too scary, especially if the teeth are also showing and the nostrils are flared. It's just gonna look like whatever that creature that I just drew. Let me try that again. What the heck was that? Oh, I kind of edited it out, but let me make the eyes bigger, maybe a bit cuter. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Just let me be. Okay. Yeah. Don't do this again. Make the eyes halfway. Ease up on the nostrils. And do something that looks a bit more like this. And then your eyebrows can create the shock. So she shouldn't lose her cool, you know? You guys can share your galleries here. Please post your galleries. It's a really good thing to do to stay in touch. I don't mind. No such thing as shameless self-advertisement, unless you're, I don't know, shamelessly advertising. But if we're here sharing our art with each other, then please do it. Please. I also recommend the hair color to be a bit warmer. It's a bit of a green. If you want it to be a brown, take it to the reds. Damn it. Color. just throw some of that red over so it doesn't look so green anymore, because it looked green before. And I know you might want to make her look green, but her skin tone was a bit red. So just to unify her skin tone and unify it with that secondary light source in the background. Okay? Everybody with me? So before, after. You see how the light source unifies the object? Before you had that white that was just interrupting everything. And then after, looks more like character design. Layout. When eyebrows want to express expression, they don't leave their vicinity. They stay pretty much in their area. What happens is that they stretch a little bit outside of that vicinity. So just until the muscles reach their limit. And in that limit, we have the expression. So when you want to create someone in the sort of state of desperation, or with a very sort of disgusted face, or surprised face, or face in horror, the eyebrows, paint them as if you were just going to paint any normal eyebrows. But when you paint the inside corners of the eyebrows, push them upward, or paint them going upward. There is also a great deal of muscle tension in that expression, and so what we get are muscles that have bends in them, and folds and stacking. Also, generally, eyebrows are mostly responsible for expression in a face, probably mouth is second to that. And so you need to make sure that if you're going to use the eyebrows for a serious expression, or going to hold the entire painting together, what the painting is trying to express through the expression, then make sure that the eyebrows you're painting are painted. It's like sort of narrow for me to say painted well, but make sure you get a good reference on how to scatter the hair, because all of the attention will now go to the eyebrows. The eyebrows are now responsible for this expression, so they will automatically become the focal point. So it's very, very important that you get a good reference going for the eyebrows. Am I disconnected? Is it still streaming? Is it lagging? Okay, I'm not getting any responses, so God damn it, this is so frustrating. I'm just gonna... Am I disconnected, guys? Can you guys hear me? Am I lagging? You really didn't hear what I said? No? You can't hear? Oh my God. Okay. Okay, another thing is the face shape. So I just brought the face shape back to reinforce the skeleton beneath it. Then you've got a scale problem with the nose. The nose is part of the expression because it is being tucked in because of the face, because of the lips. Lips are pretty good. But it was mostly in the eyebrows and in the face shape. And then finally, we have the neck. Remember, the neck starts out with the jaw and the base of the ears. If you don't know how to draw a neck, just get your fingers underneath your ears and trace your neck. Trace the outline of your neck and you'll be able to identify where its source is. I am sorry about this lag issue. It is very frustrating, especially if the stream is a class or a demonstration. Because you don't know what people have missed. You don't even know at that point. It just becomes super frustrating. But I'm not pissed. I'm still jelly old me. Ha ha ha. No, I'm so pissed right now. Okay. Another big part of expression is the shoulders getting tucked in. So if you want, you can tuck the shoulders in. Edit, preferences, general. I never leave the music in the beginning. I always cut it out. I have to restart Photoshop because I decreased some of its RAM usage. What do you mean mess with a good thing? Yeah, Google Hangout is good, but the thing is, you can't chat with me. And I need you guys to be there, or else who am I talking to? So, so I'm very sorry about this critique. It was just a mess. It basically it was the head size wasn't governed by don't let the expression change the proportions of the face, basically. Another issue was the eyebrows. Please make sure that you're not overdoing the eyebrows to a point where it looks like a caricature. You have to make sure that you are painting the eyebrows normally, making sure that they're not leaving their actual bone structure that is beneath them. That the hair still looks scattered, it looks like hair, it doesn't look like it's painted in, because if you're using the eyebrows to govern the entire expression, then you're going to overdo the eyebrow when you draw it. You're going to draw it excessively, meaning you're going to have perfect edges, you're going to over-render the eyebrows. Be careful of over-rendering them. Make sure that you're still following the general light rules, respecting the core shadow, making sure that you have highlights where you need to have highlights. It's the only thing is that the eyebrow has been just reassigned slightly towards the upward. And then out of that we get the expression. The sockets still get dark. The bottom lid still needs to be visible. All of that is still very, very necessary, and it shouldn't be ignored. If it disconnects, I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep recording this so that you guys can get it off livestream.com. The history. Depending on where the light source is, it seems to be coming from both ends. Still need to have milk mustache, cheekbones, depending on where the light source is though. Edges of the face, such as this, also need to have some contour happening. And of course the hair comes in large portions. So be careful of painting every tiny little hair. It comes in large portions, and then you can just start shrinking your brush. Make sure to stay true to the shapes, the big shapes that you painted in when you add in the smaller shapes. Don't interrupt too much. And then shrink your brush one more time. Both in the dark colors and in the light colors, to add in some realistic texture. But don't paint the whole set of hair with one small brush. That's not going to create realistic looking hair. Okay? And hair has a highlight depending on where the light is coming from. So this hair has a highlight on this side. And forget the upper eyelids. Even though her eyes are open, her upper eyelids should be a bit visible. And the size of her pupils are a bit large. Don't forget the shadow of the upper eyelid on the rest of the face, or the eyeballs. And the tear ducts. If she is close to tears, then you need to start showing, just like I am. I'm close to tears right now. So this lag issue. Wow, Istebrak, you suck at jokes. Add some more moisture, especially on the waterline, right over here. Sorry, just need to make sure it's perfect. And then of course the bottom lid needs some shadow on it. Everything casts a shadow on the face. If the eyeball is a sphere, don't forget the core shadow of a sphere. And the core shadow of a sphere is on the bottom of the eyeball. And so the eyelid, I don't know why you guys sometimes neglect the eyelid, the bottom eyelid, but it's the most essential part of the spherical nature of an eye. And if you guys forget that, you're neglecting one half of the eyeball. And that's an incomplete eyeball right there. I mean, I don't know if you guys can function with half an eyeball. No, I can't. Can you guys hear the passive aggressive in my voice right now? Can you hear how I'm imagining Livestream being tortured? So I'm just sculpting right now, trying to find flat surfaces that are facing the light source. Trying to point the light towards them so that they can also work. Don't forget the dark spots. So everything is pretty much very similar in scale right now, which is good. Nothing is too dark, there's no high contrast, but what you need to do is start reinforcing the dark spots. And the dark spots here are needed, especially around the eyes. What the fuck is that? There's like something... Okay, that was freaky. Okay, I'm starting to get freaked out. There's some sort of fly type thing flying around. It's making me jump. I think it's the neighbor outside. I don't know, maybe he killed his wife. He's trying to bury her. I'm sorry, it's not even funny. Okay. So, darkening the eyelids. Okay, and then the bottom eyelid has a very dark spot, but it's like very minimal. It's not that big a dark spot. It will also get some. And then of course we have darks on the eyebrows, darks on the base of the nose, highlights on the bottom of the nose. And that's pretty much it. That's what I recommend you sort of do. Sorry if I lost some of the freckles you painted. It is two light sources coming in, so we're gonna have a clash that I didn't touch on. Let me just show you where that clash is. Is this Katniss Everdeen? So this clash goes right through half the face. So I'm going to darken half the face because we have two light sources coming in from either side. So we're going to have this dark and any faces facing either side of the light source are going to get some. So this part is getting these lights and this part is getting these lights. And this clash goes right through the lips. So it's basically the core shadow of either light getting interrupted. We have this minor secondary light source here coming off the chin. Very gentle, not too intense. Be careful of outlining the face. You don't need to outline it. It's not necessary. And then finally some outlines. So secondary light source, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to show you the before the eyebrows. Oh, this is after, it's not even the before. Who sent me this? Can you send it to me again so we can see the original before? Okay, so what I did was, and if you don't know where your light sources are, this is basically what's going on in my head. If you don't know where the light sources are, you don't know where anything is. So what I do when I'm lost and I'm rendering and I don't know where to put the lights and where to put the darks, I just ask myself, where is the light source coming from? Is it coming from the left or the right? In this case, it's coming from both the left and the right. And the shadow ends up being splitting the face in half. There's a core shadow coming right through half the face. And there's a little bit of light coming from the top, so it's a bit of a complicated light source situation. But if you break it down, find one core shadow, break that core shadow by finding another light source that is opposing that core shadow, and then break that light source, and then all of a sudden you're going to know where the core shadow is, where the clashes are, the secondary light source clash, or the three light source clash, doesn't matter. There's going to be a trace, some sort of line happening right through half the face, and this, at least in this case, that is where the shadow is. So if there was only one light source coming from the side, the shadow would only be on one side. Is everybody with me? If there's another light source coming from the other side, and we have this shadow, what happens is that we're going to have the secondary light source come in, and then we're going to have shadows on this side. But that's not going to allow it. The one light isn't going to allow the shadows of the other light, and so we have a clash coming right through. So we have light, light, and then we have a clash. But the face isn't perfectly spherical. We're not going to have this perfect gradient. We're going to have interruptions. We have eye sockets to consider. We have lips to consider. We have a nose structure to consider. And once you have a good reference beside you, you can create this exact situation. You can duplicate it. Because all you have to do is find one core shadow, respect that one core shadow. If you want to work in that order, if you don't have a reference and you want to create this kind of light source. And then after you find that one core shadow, get the other light, interrupt that core shadow, and then keep pushing that core shadow to the place where it can exist, where in this case it exists right in half of the face. Okay? It won't be on YouTube, but it will be, like you blacked out, or did the live stream black out? You're having too much sugar? It will be in the live stream history for you guys. I feel like the colors are all from different parts of the color wheel. I feel like you're not balancing your colors. They're not coming from a very similar place. So you see here let's look at the color picker. You see where this yellow is coming from? It's almost green. But we've got all of these beige colors that are really low in the reds here. Let's not look at any cool tones because they're a different area. But do you see where all of these are? Whenever you have one kind of red or one kind of yellow and then you bring a yellow that exists from another kind of place, it means that your light source isn't consistent. Because if you had a yellow shirt and you had a yellow flower and you had a yellow belt, all of the yellows wouldn't be capable of achieving, one yellow can't outshine the rest of the yellows because the light source that's letting us see all the yellows is the same one light source. It's unified. So what happens is that if you make different yellows come from different parts of the color wheel, or the color picker, which is color wheel, then it looks like you have different light sources happening, which cannot happen in real life. It's either you have one light source or two light sources, it doesn't matter, but you have one room and you have one universe. So that yellow in that one situation has to be the same kind of yellow as every other kind of yellow. It doesn't have to be the same hue, it doesn't have to be the same saturation, but it can't be a green yellow that is so green it seems like it's from a completely different kind of light source. It's allowing that kind of yellow to exist. So if you want to balance these colors, and you'll see in a second what happens, you first have to take down the scale. So let's find what the scale is. The green and the yellow seem to be a bit like lost. By the way, this artist here just recently drew something awesome for me, and I think it's awesome. It's on the class. Some of you are on the class page, you can find it in the About Me section, and that's where all the fan art is. I don't know if I should call it fan art, but that's where all the love letters are. So the green here that I just desaturated some of this green. This, if I desaturate all of this, you'll see how bright this flower was. Do you see how bright it was? It's almost as bright as the reflective shoulders. Good job on the shoulders, by the way, really pretty. Even though it's just a dull flower, and it should have, technically it should be somewhat in a, not dull, like matte surface. It should be somewhat in a what's it called? Silhouette. So what I'm going to do is take down some of that scale that is under the yellow to match the skin here, because it isn't really getting any of the light source. But it does have highlights though. It will have some highlights. So what I will do is I will bring some highlights just on the outer edges of the flower where some of the light is reaching. And then you can shade each petal to have a shadow of its own. And after you sort of figure out a very friendly value, nothing too intense, you can start bringing in the color. Now the color is going to be a bit hard to bring in because it'll look something like an orange. The yellow won't be completely realized. And it is very difficult showing yellow or painting with yellow because if it's a dark room it won't look yellow. It'll look orange or it'll look gray. And sometimes the slightest bit of color can do it for you if it's in a dark room. You don't need all that extra color to show that it is a daisy or a dandelion, or I'm not sure what it is. So of course this is going to look very washed out because I had to use the grayscale. Yellow is not very friendly when you have to grayscale it. It's usually better to just paint it straight in, get the color you need for a daisy. Something very similar to this, and just paint in straight off. Just like that, if you want, because it'll be a very different kind of yellow than what you're seeing here, which is a mix of gray and yellow. It'll be a very pure version of the yellow. But all in all, the yellow that you used looked like it was from a different kind of flower. From a different kind of light source. And it looked like very green compared to all the warm colors that you do have here. I'm using a Wacom Intuos 5 Touch. Okay, so just flatten it. So this is just a minor edit, and you can see already how bright that other yellow was. It was like it was from a different dimension, because this is how you choose colors when you're painting still life, when you're painting portrait, you have to make sure the colors you're choosing are all from the same equation of light. Okay? Imagine that the light is a mom and it has a bunch of babies. And all the babies are the colors in the portrait or the drawing. Sometimes a weird baby will appear that does not belong to the mom. It came out of nowhere. And it's just like, hey mom, can I feed off your teat? And then it's like, what the fuck? I don't know you. So yes, the ugly baby needs to go home because the ugly baby does not belong to mommy. It belongs to another mommy and it jumped in from another painting, from another lifetime, from another dimension, under a different light source. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this yellow. This yellow is from a different mama. Okay? It's not from the same mama as this yellow. This yellow needs to this yellow needs to go home. So that's basically what I mean when you unify the colors of a portrait or any painting. It means that they're following the same light source. They have the same mama, they have the same DNA as the mama. Okay? Okay. It's not an orphan. Stop pulling at my heartstrings. Don't say that. Yes, color harmony. Like, I want to throw these technical terms at you, but you guys might not be able to be familiar with them because some of you don't have art school or haven't taken that big joke called art school. So I just have a different way of explaining it. It's still the same system. It doesn't matter which pointer you use. But yeah. You need to use a different kind of yellow. And all in all, the background is too dark, my friend. I really recommend you rework this. Maybe throw in a filter. You are sort of playing around. Maybe throw in some sort of filter that might unify some of these tones because they are a bit... This is something that Peter Moorbacker does a lot. I don't know which one he used. I think it was this one. Or was it Difference? No, it's not Difference. He uses it a lot when he tries to balance the tones. And there might be too much contrast for color modes to save the composition, but something like this might be cute. Only if it's super hyped. So let me see if we can adjust the contrast to go down a little. Filter, image adjustments, contrast. Yeah, the image is too dark. You have the black background is really messing it up because you have these really dark darks here. And then you've got these really light lights here. That's called high contrast. And it's very difficult to bring it together when you want to sort of unify them. The black background is really in the way in this case. So if it is on a separate layer, please change it to something lighter. Maybe even this tone right here. This color. Because you need to show that she is in a state of silhouette or spotlight. And if it's spotlight or something, the room wouldn't be that dark. If she is in a really, really dark room that is this dark, you need to follow, again, respect the core shadow in that room. So part of the face, part of the inner body here needs to be all darkened, and then stylistically, of course, you'd have to highlight some of her features, but only slightly. And you'd have to use a different darkening color as well. Because it's all so dark that it only makes sense if it was this dark all around. Because now she looks like she's in a room that's dark, and then she's got the light on either side of her. So what you have to do is change the background layer to be lighter to show that this is real and it's happening in the room. And then after that, get rid of the writing for now. It's going to be in the way. It's going to distract you. And then bring down the saturation. You're a bit high on the saturation. Like for instance, here you've got this yellow. Whoops. You got this really bright yellow. These really bright reds here. And once I desaturate them, You can see how really dark the image is. It's pretty dark. You're choosing colors that are coming from, basically the lightest that you chose is not even up here. It's halfway. The lightest is the darkest. I mean, the lightest that you chose should be your darkest. That's how dark you are. Look at how deep into no man's land you are. And then in the lights, look at how high you are. So this is your lightest, this is your darkest. This is too much contrast for an image that should be representing skin. Too much contrast. Maybe this much contrast if you were painting a super duper mega death vacuum and all the metallic surfaces and it was a dark room and you had you have the background dark, etc. And you have the reflective surfaces and the metallic surfaces. But because it's skin and skin is matte, reflective, not that reflective I mean, has a bit of shine, is transparent, and then you've got clothing that shouldn't be that dark unless it's made of antimatter. You're going to have to lighten it up so that it respects that kind of material. So you threw color on a grayscale that was too dark. What you need to do is lighten all this up and bring down the contrast. Bring it way down. Beautiful eyes, beautiful face, by the way. Really well done. Image, adjustments, contrast. Okay, bring that. I know it looks like totally washed out now, but when you bring in your darks now, which your dark should be somewhere around here, and you establish how dark you're going to go, you're not going to go any darker than that. This is how dark I will go today, and I will not go darker than this, because if I go any darker, then I'll interrupt the form. Okay, and everything should be a step down from this dark. What you did before was a bit too dark. Is it stable now, by the way? Can you guys like hear and see me? Yeah, it's stable. Good. So this is how dark you should be going. At first, if you want to go a bit darker than this, you're going to have to be careful. Darken only what you really need to darken. Think about the colors that you need to bring in. So if you are going to paint in grayscale to color, you're going to have to start thinking about when you want to stop grayscaling and when you'll jump into color. Where's the light source coming from? So the light source should be coming from somewhere in the top. So the top of her beret should be a little lighter. Don't forget your edges. No, I haven't, Zeta. I do critiques for people who are present during the stream. No offense or anything. It's just that when they're here, it's better to, you know, they're actually here so they can hear it. And then you have all this high contrast on the shoulders. What you can do is keep that and just present that high contrast on the face. Bring in some of the dark spots on the nose. And once you bring in the spots on the nose and on the mouth, you're going to see that you don't need to go any darker anymore for the skin, because it'll just fall together. The spots that should be dark are dark, and everything else is representing the transparent lightness that is skin. Okay, so you do have some realism going on. You want to show that it's like a doll, like a real, so you might want to shade the bottom eyelid. Okay, and then the eyebrow. God, that bug was huge, guys. Like, that was a humongous bug. Some light here to trail. No, wow, you got here 45 minutes ago and it wasn't working for you? Holy shit, Livestream, man, you suck. You just suck, Livestream. Let's just never invite Livestream to our parties. Okay, some minor realism going on with the tear ducts. Milk mustache, chin, and then reflectiveness of her lip gloss. Delete this and this. Okay, and this is where high contrast happens when you have reflective surfaces. I did yours, Carlo, I'm so sorry. I'll send you the original copy, and the recording will be on Livestream if you want to take a look at it. Also, if you find, I'm not sure what your name is, it's a Japanese name. I'm not sure what his name is, this artist. I'm just going to call you Nissan. Okay, Nissan. Sorry. If you work this light and you feel like you're losing some form, it doesn't look dark enough for you, try making some edges before you go dark. I mean, you can go dark, it's okay, calm down, but when you get to that point and you feel like you're going to panic, just breathe and then work on your edges. If you work on the edges, you start zooming in. Don't worry, don't go too dark, wait. Go in there and just start outlining some edges. Your style allows for some outlining, so I allow you to. You have my permission. You can go in and start outlining some of the nostrils. Not outlining, edging out, sorry. Find the edges on the nostrils. Form some edges before you feel like you need to add in some more contrast. Okay, before you go a little bit darker. Trust that you can maybe get what you need out of the detail and the focus and the form just by adding in some detail. Okay, you've got the Cupid's bow. So we're not trying to go completely realistic, just half and half. And zoom out, always remember to zoom out. Don't forget this. And then where do you feel like you need darks now? Now you can go in and introduce a little bit more dark. Okay? And this should probably be the darkest that you go. And then find other shadows here where you have objects that need some edge work. So this is all one big edge for the beret. And then figure that out. And then the spot in between her arms is pretty dark, not much light is going in there. So using an edge and some minor darks, we can get that to be a little bit more, I guess, visible. A little bit more on the outer sleeves. Burn on midtones. Okay, do you see what edges are doing for us here? We're starting to form just by using edges and by using lighter tones, making sure you're not going too dark too soon, because it really will affect how good it looks at the end. Even if you painted the eyes as well as you painted them, it doesn't matter if the whole image is suffering because you went too dark. If there's too much contrast, nothing is helping the form emerge. The form is just getting washed out. Edges and gradual tones are all part of form. I'm not sure how I want to draw this girl, but if she does have black hair, of course you're allowed to use dark. This looks like she has light brown hair. If she does have black hair, then at this point, of course it's okay to use a darker tone. But when it comes to the skin, don't add that same contrast to the skin, because that's going to make the skin look like it's super dark. And if she is from a certain race or whatever, then that's not going to make sense anymore, especially if you're trying to trying to make it so that she looks like she's Asian or something, or she has lighter skin. Just keep the skin where it is right now. Darken what needs to be darkened because it has to be, not anything optional. And then figure it out from there. And not even the black hair can be that dark. It needs to be somewhat light because it's got highlights on it. So highlights like these. Okay. And if you want to darken her lips, if her lips are a little bit red, or she has some dark lipstick on, just get it on multiply. Then you can darken that, but not the skin. Okay? What else needs to be darkened? The neck area here needs to have a shadow on it. Get the burn tool. Damn it. Just a slight shadow, nothing too intense. And then slowly you start to sculpt your image. If you have too much contrast, let's look at how it looked before I desaturated it. Well, it looked really pretty before because you had the details. But do you see how dark that was? And even after the color, even after we removed the hue saturation, do you see how much blacks you used? It was way too much. And compared to now, it's going to be super light. But you've lost a lot of what you were trying to draw and all of that dark that you were using to represent the stage, or to stage it, to represent the form. And so now you get to work as if you have very little black paint, as if you don't have all the black paint. Like, see, if you have like an ounce of black paint and you paid $10,000 for it. Paint as if you don't have that much black in your inventory. Because if you use too much, you will lose lots and lots of form. Very valuable, delicious form.